Hi everyone, hope you're having a great day. So I'm thinking about the balance of a martial art class. How much of it is training in the art, the science, the art and the science, and how much of it is conditioning. There are those who favor conditioning. Actually, they favor conditioning over the art. That's why there are gyms where there is no art, just get strong. I find it interesting, if you think about it, the majority of people who study martial arts tend to be men between the late teens and 40s, which strongly suggests it's about conditioning. Excuse me. I might say also there's a huge number of little kids, right? But the vast majority of little kids who study martial art, they'll study it for 3 or so years, and then they'll go to high school and they'll discover girls or boys, and they'll never do it again. So they're not actually martial artists. They're kids playing at a martial art specific play school. I'm talking about martial artists. People who have found some inner peace or enjoyment out of martial arts and do it long term. I think the middle block, those alpha males, I think their inner enjoyment is an ego trip. I'm the strong guy, I'm the tough guy. There are those who, for all of us, self-defense is often top of mind, but let me point out something, two statistics real quick. I looked up these statistics this morning. On average, during the course of a year, in the United States alone, there are about 1.3 million violent crimes. Violent crimes include crimes with the threat of violence, but not necessarily the act of violence. Which means on average, the average person has about a 0.3% chance of being in a violent crime. Less than a third of a percent of a chance. We all know those people who have been in 2 or 3 fights, which means they tend to go to the wrong places or do the wrong things or say the wrong things, and therefore they eat up a lot of the statistics. And then there are those who have never been in a fight. So one, you can change your odds literally by how you choose to live. Women are a little bit more prone than men, which is odd, as I've said before, because martial arts is mostly studied by men and we talk about self-defense, but women would seem to need it more. But here's a counter statistic to think about. There are over 6 million passenger car accidents in the United States each year, which means you are 5 times more likely to be in a car wreck than you are to be in a violent crime. But there are not a lot of people who take safe driving courses. Just something to think about. Just saying. So we've got this chunk of guys who I think what drives them to study martial arts is ego and wanting to be the tough guy. But there is something about the study of martial art that touches them inside, that fills a need, that makes them happy or feel good, more than just working out at the gym, which is why they don't go to the gym, or doing mountain climbing or kayaking or something else that requires physical exertion. There's something in there. And we all have to kind of look inside ourselves. If you study martial arts long term, you do it because it makes you feel good, it makes you happy, it fills some need. But you have to look behind that need to ask yourself, what is it in you that makes you enjoy the martial arts, and what makes you enjoy the art that you prefer? It works with your body, but it must also work with your mind and your emotions. Okay? It makes you happy, it makes you feel contented, it solves problems, it does something that makes you feel good. And that's why you keep going back. The question then becomes, what is the balance between the study of the art science versus conditioning? Especially for that middle group of males, 18 to 40 something. As you get older, you cannot do the same conditioning, and that's one reason why I'm looking at this. I want to provide some conditioning, art-specific, use-specific conditioning for my students, without detracting from the study of the art itself. Raw conditioning, as I've said before, you can go to a gym. You can pay Move Fitness $10 a month, and you can get yourself as strong as you want to get. But you're not learning the art. And it's the art that's touching that thing inside you that makes you feel good, that makes you keep coming back. But there is that need to have conditioning that relates to the task. For the last 7 years or so, I've really focused on the art. While my body was going through some senior changes, I now want to add some conditioning. But I'm trying to find that balance where it's not all conditioning and therefore very little art and science, where it's largely art and science because that's what people pay me for. Some art-specific conditioning, and if they want to people want to get stronger, leave that onto them as I have. In the distant past, especially in my 40s and early 50s, it was conditioning, along with some art, science. But I was a dojo rat. I would take an entire class for art and an entire class for conditioning. A lot of people don't have that kind of time, except for the dojo rats. So anyway, something to think about. Ask yourself what it is that keeps you coming back. And you should be looking at your balance of art, science versus conditioning. On that note, I want you to keep in mind the Good Martial is Universal Workshop Weekend, which is coming up on November 4th, 5th, and 6th. The pay portal, scheduling portal is up and available. I'll post a link to it somewhere in the description. I hope you're having a great day and you keep on training.